Thanks everyone for joining us for this edition of Executive Coaches of Orange County ECofOC podcast series for nonprofits. My name is Nader Nemati. I'm one of the over 50 executive coaches. We provide pro bono services for nonprofit organizations in Orange County. I'm joined today by Larry Tucker, who I've known and had the privilege of working together on volunteer organizations, including SCORE and Executive Coaches of Orange County. We're also joined by Matt Howells, Executive Director of Terrace Chance. Today's topic is board retreat. Larry, can you share a bit about your background and your involvement with the Orange County nonprofits, if you would?
Sure. I was a consultant for 25 years and was a principal at an international consulting firm. And then I took what I know from that. I retired early and started working with Executive Coaches of Orange County. It's been about 20 years now. And so I've had a chance to work with dozens of nonprofit leaders, which has been, extremely rewarding. And then also many years ago, started working with boards and have probably also worked with dozens of nonprofit boards.
That is wonderful, Larry. And as Larry mentioned, he also heads all of our board services, which again, it includes the strategic planning, the board retreat, and the board excellence, which are the services that ECofOC provides, in addition to the pro bono one-on-one coaching for executives in nonprofits within Orange County. So thanks for that, Larry. And again, great to have you on the program. Matt, can you tell us about your background and the mission behind Terrace Chance? I had the privilege together with Larry to actually visit it in person. So great to have you on the program.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks, Nader, for the opportunity. My background is I'm a Coast Guard veteran and went to the University of Michigan following that and was involved in Terrace Chance with my parents being the founders ever since its foundation in 2012. And so when the opportunity arose for me to take over as the executive director, I jumped in just knowing how impactful our mission is on children with special needs. So we work with over 65 different diagnoses of children and adults with disabilities. And we provide equestrian therapy, working with 13 different therapy horses, staff and volunteers to provide physical, occupational, and speech therapy all at the same time. But the magic is really that it's fun. And when the kids are up there, they're just enjoying it and they enjoy the space, they enjoy their horse, and they enjoy all the fun games that we do on the back of that horse.
It's truly magical. I know when Larry and I were actually there, just seeing the expressions on the kids' faces and their interaction with the horses and with the staff and everything, it really is an amazing mission. So thanks for all you do with the nonprofit. And let's go ahead and actually talk a bit about the board retreat, which happened several months ago. And Larry, can you walk us? I mentioned what Executive Coaches of Orange County services are, but it's always nice to kind of hear it from the individuals that are on this program. Can you tell us a little bit about Executive Coaches of Orange County, the board services that you lead for us, and in particular, the board retreat offering, and what is it and what does it entail, please?
So we really offer three board services. One of them is strategic planning, where we partner with the board members and staff leadership to develop the future of that organization. We also offer a board excellence service. We partner with charitable ventures, and it's a process that we go through to help boards kind of prepare for the challenges of the future by working through their policies and their procedures to make sure that they are prepared for what's coming. Our board retreat services usually entail about 2 or 3 prep meetings at the beginning with the CEO and with the board chair. We'll work through going through the board retreat goals to figure those out, to make sure that we, in fact, are going to be able to achieve what we want to achieve in that meeting. And then we prepare a working agenda to work through, exactly what we want to cover in that session, and then a final agenda for distribution to the board. And we'll suggest processes along the way and activities that will engage the board and help them to achieve the retreat goals.
Wonderful. Matt, what led you and Terrace Chance to decide you needed a board retreat, I guess, in the first place?
Terrace Chance has grown 25% year over year for the last 4 years. Pretty rapid growth. And our board planning and our board in general has been a big part of that growth. And so for us, it was crucial to make sure that we had a plan for the future, while that growth might taper off slightly, to ensure that we continue to grow as our wait list and our demand for our program continues to expand. And so we were looking for a board retreat to ensure that we could have a detailed vision for the future. And, we had done several board retreats and board strategic planning sessions in the past as a group, and some of them with outside leadership, some of them without. And we had learned that having that outside leadership was vital to the success of that session. And as a client of executive coaches of Orange County and having worked with a coach personally for the last several years, I knew that that was something that ECofOC provided, and thought it would just be a great fit.
Wonderful. Was there any significance in terms of the importance or the timing of doing it at the time you selected? I know there were some construction projects, there were many others, but what kind of led to the fact that, that particular time it's critical to do this board retreat, in your opinion?
Yeah, Terrace Chance was really at a transformational transition stage during the time of the retreat. We were just coming off having bought the property that we had leased for 12 years and operated on. And so we were now owners of this property, and we could invest in its capital. And so we were at that time just sort of launching and getting the capital funding that we were going to be needing, and putting together this plan to develop the property so that we could actually work with the clients that we serve, make it more accessible, and have the space to be able to continue to grow and expand. And so we're right there at a transition stage of bringing Terrace Chance to the next level of our organization. And it was a great time for us to do that strategic planning to make sure that the operations and the vision is aligned.
And it is a beautiful property. I haven't seen it firsthand together with Larry. What did the process look like at the board retreat in terms of what you were trying to accomplish, and what was the process taken to accomplish that across that activity?
I think from my perspective, what makes a strategic planning effective is all the work and preparation that goes in beforehand. I think the quote from Muhammad Ali was that it's not when you're in the lights, but it's when you're in the gym and you're doing the hard work that makes what happens in the lights go on. And so I think that my expectation was we needed to do a lot of work to set that up. And I was blown away with how much work you and Harry did beforehand, making sure, one, that you actually understood our mission and what our program was about. And you had that why, just as we do, of why we are all engaged in Terrace Chance mission. And then from there, putting together the structural bones of how the meeting was going to run and how we were going to engage all the board members. And so I thought from the starting process of getting each other and all of us on the same page of this is Terrace Chance mission, this is where we currently are as an organization, this is where we want to be. That can be a long process, and truly understanding. And both of you guys, because you're such professionals with such great experience, picked that up really fast and made it very easy to be able to then say, okay, how do we want to structure this meeting? And, we looked at the different profiles of all of our board members to see where they were going to fit in and how we were going to engage them. And so we put all that prep work together before we got together. And then in the meeting itself, you guys did a fantastic job in bringing those pieces together, engaging every member of the board, and really bringing some great critical thought and thinking into putting together this plan throughout the whole process. It was phenomenal to work with you guys.
That's great to hear. To your point, the prep work by, I would say, the nonprofit, and putting in the effort and the dedication to get that done, as you said, is so key. ECofOC, Larry, myself, and others, we facilitate, and you guys' involvement in the breakout sessions and just having that prep work ahead of time, exactly as you said, it could be a make or break on these board retreats in the sense of make it as productive as possible and as effective as possible. So to you guys' credit, you guys did an amazing job of engagement in the prep as well as during the session. I commend that. And Larry, you're an expert at this. I guess in terms of best practices and insight, why is it considered the best practice for nonprofits to hold an annual board retreat, in your opinion?
We've already touched on a couple of these. Matt specifically talked about the board being engaged in this one. And I think one of the things that we're finding is that because of logistical things, board members are becoming a little less engaged at times. And that is, do we have to do our meetings by Zoom, for example? So we work with some organizations, they do all their meetings by Zoom, and that admittedly is less engaging for board members. They can't connect with each other or with the organization as well. So one of the goals in virtually every board retreat that we work on is, well, let's make sure that we create exercises and discussions that board members can truly be engaged in. And again, Matt's already kind of covered some of that. The second reason I think for the concept of a board retreat is, and we've touched on this, the concept that this is an opportunity to be strategic. We are stepping away from our day-to-day activities and saying, let's think broadly and long-term. And this is a great opportunity to be able to do it. So you're doing something different than you normally would. You might meet in a different location. You might have a little longer meeting, et cetera, in order to be able to kind of change the environment to have those types of discussions.
That's great. Obviously, we're talking about the perspective of the outcomes and some of the processes for Matt and his organization here. But what are some of the outcomes of these retreats that are typically produced based on your experience?
Everyone is different, of course, and everyone's looking for something a little different. Some of the ones that come out of these things are, number one, strategic plans, or at least the beginning of a strategic plan, or a refined strategic plan. That is, this is a good opportunity to be able to say, we have a strategic plan, we have a 5-year or a 3-year strategic plan, but let's take a look at it each year and potentially, update it. Let's make sure that we're going in the right direction on this, see if we have to course correct, and take the opportunity to maybe make some changes in that. So that's one of the things. Second, this is an opportunity to have a board do, a self-appraisal. We've done that. We start with a survey at the beginning and have a discussion about the results of that. So you get a sense from individual board members of how they feel they're contributing, and then also how the entire board feels that they are, serving the organization. Creating and refining board committees. This is an opportunity to be able to make sure that we say, have we got the right board committees? Are they doing the right things? Is it time to maybe make some changes in those? And then the other one, of course, is which has been popular for the last few years now, and that is fundraising. So what's the board role in fundraising? What role should they take? What role can they take? And how can we help them to manage that process?
I remember that was one of the topics in the sense of defining the different roles that potentially a board members could take. And it was an interesting element of there's different sort of elements of engagement. And I know you covered that with the team. So definitely valuable, but the board's involvement in that is so important. It's not just the CEO or the nonprofit, but the board, it plays such a key role as you talk about, not just in that retreat, but in others that we've actually been in. Why is it important to have an external facilitator like an ECofOC for these board retreats, Larry?
So I'll mention a few things that I think that we hear from CEOs, and Matt, I think Matt's already mentioned a couple of things, but one, at a very basic level, we do add some discipline to the process, and that is nonprofit CEOs are just inundated with zillions of things going across their desk, and being able to have an outside facilitator says, we're going to make sure that as a team we are working together to make sure that we are doing the right planning for this, and we're taking the time to do that. And then besides that, as I think Matt found out, we have the ability to be able to take some of the burden off the CEO's shoulders. That is, we can do some of these things that maybe he won't have to do, and he can dedicate more time to operating the nonprofit. So that's one. The other thing we hear a lot is the CEO says, I'm really appreciative of the fact that I could participate in the discussion instead of working through the logistics in my head to actually run the discussion. So that's two. And then three, I think the other thing we offer is we offer a ton of experience. So we've worked for, decades with nonprofits and with boards. And in fact, we are now, staffing our board retreat projects with 2 of our coaches. So you get, literally decades of experience on working with nonprofits. And that adds to the depth and breadth of those discussions.
Matt, your perspective, because obviously the nonprofit could facilitate its own board retreat, but were there advantages to having a facility? You're not going to hurt our feelings. What were some of the advantages, if any, of having an external facilitator or facilitators in this case?
Yeah, like I said, we've done both. We've had board strategic planning sessions in which I have led, and we've had outside facilitators, 3 of such. And that's why my compliments go off to you guys, because you did such an amazing job in comparison to the planning retreats that we had done in the past. And so I think, to Larry's point, that yes, it does alleviate a large part of the preparation, ensuring that the meeting is going to run the way in which we expect it to, but also allowing me to then participate. And, I think almost every other month when we have our board meetings, the board is hearing from the executive director about what's going on in the organization and where are we going. So to be able to step back and have somebody else do that really makes this meeting feel a lot different than a traditional board meeting, and allows us to really focus on that strategic vision from a new perspective.
Got it. Let's go ahead and move forward on the next topic. One question, Matt. So you've been engaged with ECofOC on the board retreat. Are there any other services that you engage with Executive Coaches of Orange County? We did a recent podcast saying it doesn't have to be lonely on top for the leaders of nonprofits, because it is such a tough job. We're probably in one of the most dynamic times as it relates to the different sort of challenges, post funding, just the dynamics of what's happening around the world. But I guess, are there any other services that you utilized with the Executive Coaches of Orange County?
Yeah, I have several other mentors. I have a great mentor and partner who runs another equine therapy center. I've got mentors from the University of Michigan, and I got a ECofOC coach back in probably 2021. And at that point in time, when I had taken over Tara's Chance, we had about 30 students. We had 6 horses, and our budget was about $250,000. And we had about 60 children on a wait list. And so that was an opportunity and a clear growth opportunity for us. We also, at that point in time, had about 6 full-time staff and 2 part-time. And so, I worked with my coach, Rafael Duran, who was absolutely phenomenal, for about 3 years as an individual coach. And the growth in where Tara's Chance is today, having 10 full-time staff, 2 part-time, having over $1 million budget, working with 97 individuals with disabilities every single week, that growth is directly caused by the coaching that has been provided from ECofOC, guiding me to guide the organization. I did transition, and I changed coaches probably about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years ago, and started working with Linda Smith. And Linda's phenomenal and really provides a different set of backgrounds and skills that Raphael had. And so I've been able to really learn and grow from her leadership for the last several I think years now. And so I've engaged with a coach on a personal level, and it's had a direct impact on Tara's Chance and our ability to serve the community. And then I've also been a part of the Executive Director Forum for probably about 3 years. And that is another amazing offering from ECofOC, in which we bring together executive directors of several nonprofits throughout Orange County. And you don't feel so crazy, right? Everybody else is going through the same thing. And so we can connect and share resources in really a unique way. And we've built really quite a close cohort there of individuals who can lean on each other on different needs that we have within our own organizations and support one another. And so those are the other ways in which I've engaged with ECofOC. Can't recommend it enough. It's been absolutely phenomenal. It's made a big impact for me as a leader, but I think more importantly, it's made a big impact in Tara's Chance and the work that we do.
Thanks for that. And yeah, 2 things that you mentioned. One, in today's podcast, we're talking about board services and in particular board retreat. But as you mentioned, there's the one-on-one coaching with the CEO and some of their direct reports that ECofOC provides pro bono to the nonprofit. The other one that you mentioned is the CEO Forum, where, again, you're like-minded nonprofits with similar and dissimilar challenges. They have a peer group that they can actually get together once a month and talk about the issues. There are ECofOC 2 coaches that are in those forums. But again, I think the most valuable thing is just the networking that you guys do among yourself as nonprofit leaders. So thanks for mentioning that. And then one other thing I would mention is, as organizations grow, the needs and the type of coach based on the skill set that you need, that might change as well. One of the things with Executive Coaches of Orange County is we have over 50 plus different coaches. Larry and I are 2 of them, but there are many others. Depending on the needs and as the requirements change, an organization has the opportunity to say, you know what, It was marketing, it was fundraising. I want to focus on some of the other leadership and others. So different topics. So you could add or you could supplement the coaches that you have based on skill sets. So again, thanks for bringing up that issue. Let's talk a little bit about reflection. It's been a couple of months since we went through this board retreat. So as we're sitting here today, after a few months that has passed, what are the lessons or insights as a result of having done this retreat in terms of lessons learned, Matt?
I mean, I think a lesson learned was clearly to have a great facilitator as you go into your strategic planning. And so, we developed a 3-year plan, and that always has things that happen, things that don't happen, and changes. And so we've been able to work as a board on all 3 aspects of that in the plan that we have going forward. And we know that when the plan ultimately is ready for a complete reboot, we would go back to ECofOC and look for that guidance again. So that was a big lesson for us, was that it was ultimately successful. And then we've been able to use that plan as we're going through this year to ensure that Terrace Chance is still in a position of growth and able to impact our riders at a very high level.
That's wonderful. And Larry, I guess for organizations that might be interested in board retreat, what would you recommend as a first step for getting involved with ECofOC?
It's pretty easy. Just go to our website, ecofoc.org, and just click on the service you're interested in. You fill out a little thing we want to make sure you understand it's not an application. It's just, I'm interested in, want to talk about it. And so feel free to go in there, click on it, fill out the short form, and we'll return you a call and we'll start talking.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'd like to thank you, Matt, for such a great nonprofit that you have, and cannot wait for Larry and I to come back over there and see how the construction is going and all the great things that you guys do, and meet the horses that you introduced to us individually. So it's just an amazing thing. So thank you so much for joining us, Matt, as well as Larry. Thanks for being a colleague for the 20 past years, and I continue to learn from you. So thanks for everything you do for Orange County and your volunteering.
And I do have to say, Matt and his board were just absolutely terrific to work with, really professional. And of course, you get great outcomes when, you have great people involved. It was really rewarding to work with you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry. And thank you, Nader, for both the retreat again. Really loved working with both of you. Such a great impact. And then thanks for having me today as well, Nader. Appreciate it.
Definitely. I second Larry's comment about Matt and the organization as well. So great job by you guys. And thanks everyone for joining us on this ECofOC podcast and today's topic, board retreat. Thanks so much. Take care.